Okay, Ms. Reese, do you want to call the roll?
Absolutely. Good morning. Let us get started. We have Chief Justice Lawrence Van Meter.
Here.
AOC Director Katie Comstock.
Here.
President of Circuit Clerks Association, Stacy Brunner. Chairperson of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Whitney Westerfield. Okay. Chairperson of the House Judiciary Commission, Daniel Elliott. Secretary of the Finance and Administration Cabinet, Teresa Walker.
Here.
Here. Court of Appeals Judge appointed by Supreme Court, Allison Jones. Circuit Court Judge appointed by Supreme Court, John Alexander.
Here.
District Court Judge appointed by Supreme Court, Amy Anderson. County Judge Executive appointed by Governor Todd Mansfield.
Here.
Okay.
Do we have a quorum?
I believe so.
We do not. That was only 5.
Oh, sorry. I missed one.
We do not have a quorum, Chief.
Danny. Hey, Danny, I just had an unknown user show up on Zoom. You and me try to get on there and see if that may be another member.
Mark, I've got it.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Who is it?
It was not another member. It's an AOC employee.
Okay. Well, I'm not big on wasting time, and we have a lot of people here.
Chief Justice Van Meter, Stacy had emailed us, Clerk Bruner, that she had a conflict come up right at the last moment, so that she was hoping that she would be here, but she would not be able to. She was asking if Chrissy Fields could stand in her behalf, but our rules of administrative procedure do not allow for the clerk's representative to have a designee, so that will not be able to occur. Ryan Becker is on the call as well. Ryan, do you have anything to add to that related to our procedures moving forward?
I mean, we need a quorum. Is there any way to get any of the other 5 people here?
Porky, Judge Craig, I just got a text that Senator Westerfield is headed to court now to join.
Wonderful. Thank you. Corky, Adam Gillette here just got on the Teams meeting, and there was another member on the Teams meeting. Who is it?
Whitney Westerfield just joined on the Teams meeting. So I'll provide the link to the Zoom meeting.
He's sending the link to the Zoom meeting right now.
Porky, John Alexander, too, point of order. One of these projects was ours, so even though I'm a voting member, I can't vote on our project. So if we're one person short of a quorum, we're going to need 2.
Correct.
Adam went ahead and put the link in the Teams meeting for the Zoom meeting. I think you would only be able to pick up one more member based on the attendees that he saw on the Teams meeting. So
Yeah, Whitney Westerfield was the only member that I saw there.
And he has finally joined the much preferable Zoom.
So that's Senator Westerfield.
Yes, Chief. Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, thank you. So the first order of business is approval of the meeting minutes from November 29th, 2022. Do anybody have any changes, corrections? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I guess I will sign those. Danielle Craig has already signed. I'll sign it. I think I was at that meeting, so I'll sign my name as the current Chief Justice. First order of business is the presentation of the Clinton County Judicial Center project. Do we have County Judge Executive Craig?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right, you're up.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Just wanted to thank each and every one responsible for this project for choosing Clinton County. And this beautiful building will be a asset to our downtown area. And in today's society, you can never stress the importance of safety for a judicial system and for those who work there and for those judges that have proceedings there. And again, I just want to thank everyone for choosing Clinton County for this project. Thank you.
Okay, so do we have someone from the Sherman Carter Barnhart? Danny, do you want to take it over?
I can, Chief. Yes.
I'm sharing
Jeff Gregory
sharing the
with,
screen now.
Sherman Carter Barnhart.
So you should be looking at my screen now. I appreciate the opportunity to go over the proposed design for the new Judicial Center there in Clinton County. First of all, I'd like to just share with you the a little laggy there. So the board selected a site. You'll notice here where the existing county courthouse is, right here. The primary entrance to town for most folks arriving is from the north. The road splits. You've got a one-way road coming in, another one-way road coming out. And so what they desired was to have the building situated so that it really became the new front of the new gateway to the community. So coming into town, that will be what is visible. And so we'll get into a little bit closer on the site work here. So coming in from the north, the building will present itself as you drive in the one-way street here. It'll be on your left as you approach. The site has some challenges due to the grade. There's not too many flat spots in Albany, Kentucky as it is, but this one has a bit of grade change from one corner of the site to the other. The building will be a two-story building, but it lends itself to having some of the mechanical services on a lower level below those 2 stories in a basement on this side. But generally speaking, as you arrive at the building, it will look and be graded as if it's on a relatively level site. You'll see most of the drop off on the far side only as you exit town. As you move on to the floor plans, you can kind of see how it's organized. And this is also to the north. The main entrance would come in and take you immediately to one of the jury courtrooms on the first floor. The clerk's area also on the first floor, drug court with an after hours independent entrance also accessible. All of this will be accessible from the parking lot via sloped walks and ramps that will allow ADA parking to easily access the front entrance. The open lobby in the front will have a lot of glass that will be very inviting, good daylighting, and toward the rear of the building will be one of the judges' chambers associated with the courtroom on that level, the prisoner area with the sally port, and also the judges' parking located directly behind with a dedicated entry coming into an adjacent stair and restricted elevator taking you to the second floor. And then on the second floor will be the other jury courtroom and the non-jury courtroom as well, with the grand jury suite behind, and then two judges' suites as well back there. The other court affiliated spaces, CDW and pretrial, are also located on the second floor. A very ample waiting area on the second floor, again with excellent daylighting all the way around. A segregated waiting area associated with the non-jury / family court or whatever is assigned there. So a good compact design for this building that's we feel is very efficient, makes good use of the programmed areas. And one of the things that worked out really well here is that in working all of this out, it allowed for good visibility coming into town and also good visibility out from the occupants all the way around. So we're very happy with the amount of window space that each of the two jury courtrooms, as well as most of the private offices, have available to them coming into town. One of the things that the board wanted to have or include is a prominent cupola. There's a smaller cupola on the existing courthouse that's there now. They wanted a similar beacon coming into town that also included an exposed bell. So that will be something that will be functional, that they'll be able to use for however they want to set it up. It'll be set up electronically so that they can have it chime at specific times, or they can hit it for certain events, whatever the case. So that was something specific that they asked for on this project. And then, when you get into the program itself, toward the end, when it's all reconciled, there was only a very small amount of overage, a couple of percent at the end. Yeah, the program design was for 30,298 square feet. It's 31,177, so a little over 2% over. A good share of that overage is really just related to a little bit of the inefficiency of having that small lower level separated for the mechanical area. But other than that, we feel a very good use of the space allotted and the site as well. They're going to be enjoying an increase in parking that is available above what they now have around the existing courthouse. So functionally, it should not only work well for the interior design, but also for the siting on the building. So far, we believe we've got unanimous approval from the PDB, both for the floor plan layout as well as the exterior design of the building. And that pretty much takes you through the portion that we are supposed to cover today. And as for those that follow, if you'd like me to leave this up, I have, the schedule and some of the cost estimates attached at the end, and I'd be happy to scroll through it for you if you want me to do that. But you can just let me know if you'd like me to take the screen down at this point for anyone else who's following.
So at this point, Chief, we'll have our construction management representative, I believe Jim Codell is on with us, that will kind of go over what the cost estimate for the Phase A design is for this project.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, Jim Codell here. Thanks, Chief, and everyone. For the
Hey,
opportunity.
do I get in trouble if I call you Jimbo?
No, sir. How are you today?
I'm good. Jim and I grew up together in Winchester. So
Yeah, Wind City, right, Chief?
that's right. That's right. High above in the Michael Downey building right now.
Exactly. Hey, Jeff, do you mind pull that cost estimate back up?
Happy to. Yep. Which page would you like me to go to?
Well, I think that one
Okay.
is basically where we need to be.
All right.
So we have taken Sherman Carter Barnard schematics and applied current numbers to square foot numbers to the schematic design. We've used the Bath County facility, which most current numbers that we have hitting these numbers in today's market has been a challenge and continues to be. But we feel like that we've got a pretty good snapshot of where the bids would come in today's if put out on the if the project were put out today on the streets to bid. Scrolling down, Jeff, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Please, sir.
Yep.
So as you can see, we've added contingency, all the other soft costs, hazardous material abatement, which we hope will get started here if we can get approval in very short order. We'll have to get the hazardous material out of the existing buildings on the site, and then hope to move forward with a demolition package, which is ready to be put on the streets with the committee's approval as soon as the hazardous materials are removed from the existing buildings. Be glad to answer any questions that you may have. RJ Palmer, another good Clark County boy, Chief, and his team have put financing costs here together and included in these numbers.
Okay. Are there any questions for Jim Codell? So do we have Mr. Palmer is next? Is that right, Danny?
Correct, Chief.
Yeah, good morning, Chief, members of the committee. RJ Palmer with Compass Municipal Advisors. We are the financial advisor on the project. Jeff, if you want to scroll to the last page, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I just wanted them to see your face.
Thanks for carrying our water, Jeff.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so keep going here.
Yeah, you can go to the last page. I think that may be the simplest way to do it.
All right, you got it. Okay, there we go. Want me to zoom in a little bit or not?
Further, Jeff, all the way to page 29, the very last page.
I'm sorry, it just stopped for some reason. All right, there we go.
There you go. Perfect.
Yep.
Okay, so taking the total project estimate from Codell and Sherman Carter schematics, we're looking to fund $28,954,690 based on current market rates and the approved authorized use allowance of $1,833,900. We're currently able to fund $27,659,507 based upon the estimated construction timeline. We will have an ability to earn some interest on these funds, approximately $1,089,000, giving us a total amount of project funds of $28,748,957. Chief, that is approximately $205,000 short of the total estimate. But as Mr. Codell noted, we have $2,240,000 in contingency. So by simply reducing that contingency by about 9%, leaving us with still greater than $2 million of contingency, we are within the use allowance and meeting the expected cost to move the project forward.
All right, Chief Justice Van Meter, I will go on in and just basically echo the what has been presented by Jeff Gregory and Jim Codell and RJ Palmer, that currently this project does fall and meet the requirements of our programmatic needs for the KCOJ. And with the investment income that we would make off of the construction account, we would fit within that 25-year use allowance with that reduction of contingency. At this time, the Department of Court Facilities at AOC is comfortable moving forward with that. And I will open it up to any questions related to the design and construction and financing that the committee may have.
Yeah, so didn't we have an issue with some of our prior projects about the use allowance wasn't sufficient, so we had to go back to the legislature? So what generated that scenario situation, and do we have any similar concern in this situation, or is that just a function of interest rates and costs and inflation?
Both. It is a function of the increased interest rates, and the escalation of construction costs over the last 2.5-3 years that have required us to ask for additional use allowance for these projects. And our EPs allow us, what the board has been approved for, is that we can move the financing on these projects to 25 years without going back to bond oversight to make that request.
Okay, it looks like Senator Westerfield has his hand up, like he's getting ready to give us a talk on the floor of the Senate or something.
I hope I don't have to start raising my hand to do that. Damon Thayer would never call on me, or Robert Stivers. Thank you, Chief. I wanted to ask there on not about the financing, but on the floor plan for the project in Clinton there. I'm asking because I don't know the answer to the question. Are the proportions and the size of the rooms, is there any room to shrink or to make any savings or help trim costs in any of that? I can't see, and I just now parked here in the parking lot of the Hopkins County Justice Center, where I've got a court docket in about 30 minutes. So I'm looking at this on my phone. I can't see how big or how many square feet are in each of the rooms, the judge's chambers, the courtroom, and all that. Is there any room to make any adjustments there, to make any savings up, so you don't have to dig in or reduce the contingency or trim elsewhere or spend more elsewhere?
You want me to comment on that, Danny?
How many trials a year are they going to have in Clinton County? How many trials do they have in any small rural Kentucky county? I'm not trying to shrink them to something uncomfortable in a brand new building, but I don't want to overdo it.
Yes, Jeff, if you can comment on
Sure.
that question.
Yeah, well, first of all, we've conformed to the program areas. Nothing's been inflated. That's for sure. So as far as shrinking rooms, most of the offices are at a relatively minimum comfortable size as they are. None of them are larger than they were called for or that has been typical. So I don't really see shrinking those. And as far as the courtrooms, they also conform to the typical size that has been used for every building
Typical,
of this size.
Mr. Gregory, sorry to
Yes,
interrupt.
sir.
Is that typical for a county the size of Clinton County, or is it typical for any given Justice Center project?
Well, I'll tell you, we're working on a couple of others that actually have smaller buildings, namely Bath County and Crittenden County. The courtrooms here are the same size. So they're not any bigger than those used on even the smaller facilities that we're now working on. They're the same size.
Let me ask, there in Clinton, what's the square footage on the judges' chambers? Just for example.
The entire chambers, I'll have to
Yes,
look.
sir.
Give me just a second. I'll scroll through here and I can give you a number. Okay. All right. So they're each programmed to be a little bit under, right around 1,000 square feet. And that includes, the judge's office, his private toilet conference room, law clerk office, the court secretary area, files area, waiting area, a small coffee area, and a storage area. So, and that's pretty typical for each of the three suites for the judges, about 1,000 square feet each.
Okay. My first home was 1,100 square foot. So I guess it seemed large to me.
Yeah, well, this building is not really a large building as some of them go. And
no, it's not.
Yeah, so I think when you look at the plan, the areas that seem quite large are really not that big because the whole floor plate isn't that large to begin with. I would say this, that in general, because we've been through this exercise before, that you're only at most, if you were to try to shrink anything, it would be a nominal or very marginal amount and would have negligible real effect on the square feet needed for the entire building. If you saved a few hundred square feet here or there, in the end, you'd still be dealing with the same construction cost issues and financing issues. It would just be very slightly reduced. I don't think it would eliminate any of the issues.
That makes sense, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Any other questions for any of our presenters?
Chief, I have a quick question. And this is probably more for Danny, but what's the total amount of construction contingency costs?
We generally try to base that on 10% of the total construction cost. That's kind of a industry standard of contingency. What we have had to do on other projects is look at going into that construction with a reduced contingency. And that's after discussions with the design team, with the construction manager, on whether or not they're comfortable in moving forward with a reduced contingency. I think, RJ mentioned that, with the construction investment and the interest rates the way we are, we're basically $200,000 short with a full 10% contingency. So that basically just reduces our contingency to 9%. I can tell you that I feel comfortable, and I believe our construction manager and design team, Sherman Carter Barnhart, would echo that we could go into this. We are doing the demo early, so that should let us any unforeseen issues below subsurface. We would be able to identify those hopefully as quickly as possible and make adjustments to that. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
And Danny, I'm fairly new to this process, but in the past, have other projects historically used their entire contingency, or what have we experienced in reality as we've done other projects in the past?
So projects that we did, a few years ago, 10 to 15 years ago, by nature of the economy and interest rates, we were many times able to go into those projects with a full 10% contingency. Much of that contingency was utilized for additional requests that the PDB may have had to add, upgraded finishes, things like that. At this point, I don't know that we'll be afforded that luxury on these projects. So I think what we're doing now is looking at, adding those finishes in, or, bidding those as basically alternates, additive alternates, so that we know what that number is at bid date. And then at that point, we'll decide if that can be fit within the financing, and then go ahead and put those in if we can. So that, that allows us to, have those upgraded finishes, or have a cost of those upgraded finishes, and we know whether or not those can be included into the project.
Thank you.
Danny, could I add one thing?
Yes.
Yeah, you'd mentioned, and we've experienced that before on projects in the past where it looked like things were going well, and the PDB had some nice things they wanted to add. The good news is, with what we were able to show Codell early on, and based, like he said, on a recent project that actually did go to bid and they got real prices on, we have included really nice finishes as they are. So you're not going to look, if nothing is added to this building, no one's going to walk in the door and think something should have been. I'll put it that way. I think they'll be very happy with the finishes they're getting.
Let me jump in with one quick thing. So it looks like we have Judge Jones is here. Is that right, Judge Jones? Well, I see Allison Jones as in. So
I believe she's muted,
yes,
Chief.
I am here. I was trying to unmute it. I am here.
okay, all right. We're so glad. All right, now we're just bumped up on our quorum. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
I apologize for that. Being late.
No worries. Okay, so Danny, so the next issue is to you want to sum up, and we call for a vote to approve, correct, to move forward?
Correct, Chief. And as I mentioned, this project has been reviewed prior to the CFSC being presented to the CFSC by the Department of Court Facilities. And we are good with this being considered for approval by the Court Facility Standards Committee to move forward to Phase B design development at this time.
Okay, so does anybody have a motion to make that, or is there a motion for that to do so?
So moved, Judge Todd Mansfield.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. And so any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so approved. All right, so for our Clinton Countyans, I think you're good to go, and you can stay on if you want. But we're going to move ahead to the Barren County Judicial Center project.
Thank you all so much.
And I will call on Judge Executive Byrd.
Good morning, everyone. First off, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for this opportunity for Barren County. Just like Clinton County, safety is a top priority for our judges and for everyone a part of the courthouse and the Justice Center here. And we're excited for this opportunity to be able to add this beautiful building to our community and extend our downtown area. The location is right off the downtown area. So we're just really excited about it. We're ready to go with it and full support of whatever we need to do to make it happen. So we really appreciate everything. Thank you all.
Okay, Danny, I think our next person to call on is Ceiling Architects, Integrity Architecture.
Ceiling and Integrity Architects. And I believe we have Jody Driggs, Joey Nolasco, and Adam Gillette, who will be presenting for the architects.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Judge. Good morning, everyone. I'm Jody Driggs. I'm one of the principals here at Ceiling Architects. Happy to be here and presenting for the first time to the CFSC, and have really enjoyed working with our partners there at Integrity, great design professionals and partners with us, and certainly the PDB has been really a pleasure to collaborate with here over the course of a couple of years to get to this milestone. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You should be seeing the document that we prepared. We put together a brief project description, sort of an executive summary of the project, in that you would be seeing this prior to us having a chance to present it to you. Let me get a full screen mode here so it's a little larger, but I won't go through this. I'm going to jump right into and actually change the order up a little bit and go to the program summary and comparison first. Here's a couple points of note. I would say, as an executive summary, this was a lot of work and compromise and lots of discussions with the PDB members and the end users of the facility to get this project into a really close relationship of the actual design to the allocated program. And to cut to the chase, we're right at about 3% variance in the total gross square footage of the project. To go through and maybe just point out a few highlights of some of the ideas and the compromises that have been made as we've worked through this process, starting in the order that the program is developed and provided by the AOC, starting with the circuit courtroom. There's slightly larger public waiting area. There's not a waiting area specifically for the jury area. That's only included in the grand jury space. One of the things that's sort of a reoccurring theme as we worked with the judges here was a desire to provide more attorney-client rooms, private rooms for those kinds of meetings outside of the litigation love gallery. And so in most cases, there's an additional meeting room provided for each of the courtrooms. But as you can see, the circuit courtroom total is really very, very close to the allocated allocation of space. Moving to the district courtrooms, we tried to right-size these rooms. One, in terms of talking with the judges and understanding gallery size and number of spectators they typically see, how many folks are typically in the waiting areas, and also looking for an opportunity to create greater efficiency in the design through the stacking of these ultimately these four courts. So in a broad sense, the first district courtroom, as you can see here in the grand total, slightly larger. Again, some of that is about providing more waiting space, but some of it is about providing for a slightly larger courtroom. And so you can see that the circuit courtroom and the district courtroom in total start to be somewhat similar in size, and this allows them to stack vertically in the building very efficiently, and you'll see that in the floor plans. As we move to the second district court, right now there's one district judge, Judge Pendleton in the county. There's a second district courtroom provided, and again, cutting to the bottom line, the design size of the second district courtroom is slightly smaller, in fact, about 25% smaller in total in the allocation. And that's about a reduced seating capacity, having one somewhat large district courtroom, but one somewhat smaller district courtroom. Also, the idea of eliminating a dedicated jury deliberation space for that second district courtroom, understanding that in positioning of the building, the grand jury suite is not always occupied and can serve as a potential jury deliberation space if located appropriately for that second district courtroom. And so about 3,000 square feet for the total in the district court. And as we move down to the non-jury family courtroom, really, again, working closely and understanding and listening to the judges, a need for additional gallery space and making sure that we had plenty of waiting space, both in the sort of the separated and private family waiting, but also just the general waiting area for serving this court. And so we get an increased seating capacity in the spectator area, fairly significant increase, added an additional attorney-client room. And so we get to, again, 3,000 square feet as opposed to 2,200, but you can start to see the relationship again, the size of the family court aligning with the size of a reduced district court to create some really efficient stacking opportunities. Moving through the rest of the program, I want to do this efficiently and quickly. Please feel free to jump in if you have any questions, but in general, the grand jury space tracking very closely to the allocated program. As we moved into the judges' chambers, we were looking for opportunities to reduce some space and share some space and be collaborative and collegial, and ultimately reduce the size of the overall size of the project. And so in all cases, the actual judges' offices themselves have been reduced from the 250 square feet per judge's office throughout. A big sort of target was looking at opportunities to reduce or share conference space within all of the judges' chambers. Typically, all of the allocations have a dedicated conference room for each one of the judgeships. And so there's an awful lot of sharing of conference rooms that happens throughout the program. So that results in a slight reduction in the circuit court chambers, again, a slight reduction in the district court chambers, and as well a slight reduction in the family court chambers. And a lot of that is, again, about sharing of conference space. As we move over to the facility-wide areas, again, judges' break room. This has been eliminated, and in terms of efficiency, sharing with those shared conference rooms. So a place for conference room space that also serves as the break room for the various judges on both floors. As we look at conference and resource space, we've not eliminated any of the program space or the functional area, but we have reduced the conference area very slightly in that area. Moving on to the prisoner handling area, you can see, pardon me, the total area is tracking very closely to the overall target area. There are some minor reductions within the sort of the program space of that. Primarily, the interview areas were eliminated from the actual central holding area in recognition that we have secure interview spaces for detainees and inmates and their attorneys in the courtside holding areas. And then moving on to the court security, looking again at trying to accomplish the total allocated area, but tweaking this so that it's specific to the needs of the county and the building. We're doing some sharing in that space. We eliminated one of the supervisor's offices, recognizing that we have a main security office in central holding, and we're combining the video security area in the large court security workroom space, and ultimately increasing a bit the size and the sort of the generosity of the building security entrance and checkpoint, so that it's again creating some space and improving the sight lines and working clearances, and ultimately the safety of the main entrance by making that just a bit more generous. As we moved on to the clerk areas, you can see again on the bottom line, I'm tracking very closely to the total allocated area, slight reduction in some of the sizes of the individual offices, and looking at some, working closely with the clerk and looking at ways to make sure that we accommodate all of the current and future record storage, but ultimately came up with just a little bit of savings there. Increase in the active records, slight decreases in the inactive and archive and evidence storage spaces. Looking at the court-affiliated support and pretrial services, we've not eliminated any of those statewide program offerings, and primarily have just looked and worked with the PDB and the court staff to really understand how they'll be staffed and operated, and ultimately have eliminated some receptionist area and waiting areas in those spaces to come up with, again, a slight reduction in the total for pretrial, court designated, and the drug court spaces. And then sort of rounding out the building program, looking at the support spaces, again, a slight reduction there as we think about not needing a dedicated facility support office, sharing locker room space for the employees and the court security staff, not having an interior sort of heated and cooled loading dock area, but recognizing that we have access from the vehicular area, some strategies there to reduce the support space, a pretty significant reduction in terms of percentage in the public areas, but really it's just through the decision to not provide a large central vending lounge for the building in the public area, and then the mechanical circulation in walls, sort of a function of how the building stacks up on the site and how efficiently it can be put together. Ultimately, this building was programmed as a 2-story building with 4 courts, and as you'll see in the site plan, it manifests itself as a 3-story building. So it creates some slight inefficiencies in vertical circulation, the amount of exterior envelope and enclosure space, mechanical and structural chases throughout the building, as just a reality and a function of the design process. But as we look at the recapitulation here, a total allotted square footage of just under 56,500 square feet, and the actual design coming in at 58,329. So again, about a 3% overage in design. So I'm going to move back a couple of slides, share quickly sort of the vicinity map. If you're familiar with downtown Glasgow, bullet point number 4 here is the historic courthouse setting in the middle of the courthouse square, which is really the center of town. And you can see just sort of in terms of density, there's a 12 or 16 block area here, which is really sort of the central business district. And the site was selected here just sort of west of town on West Main Street, just beyond the water company building. And it's a collection of a couple pieces of a couple parcels here, and then across Water Street, a larger area that has been sort of identified as public parking. And just a couple points here, again, that you can see sort of from the aerial view, sort of the density of the town and how quickly it begins to sort of fall away from central business to more retail and even some remote residential. And so the selection of this site really does become sort of the new edge of the downtown. It stretches the identity of downtown Glasgow, and again, foreshadowing to the site plan a bit, the portion of the property, the parcel that really has been earmarked as the location of the new Judicial Center is really here approaching West Main Street. We've really started to think about the datums of the existing building storefronts and street fronts that run along Main Street, and thinking about locating the building here so that it's in close proximity and sort of honors and extends that building edge, and is also in more direct dialogue with the historic courthouse. And we'll see how some of those building placement ideas inform the development of the site. So if we move to the site plan, again, the building approaching West Main Street here, the downtown is south on the page here as we look at it. The new Judicial Center complex, a new access road that will be developed here at the edge of the property, leading down to the areas of large public parking and parking immediately adjacent to the building. And really, topography is a major driver in the development of the project. As I mentioned, it began to inform the building in terms of massing, and it sets itself up as a really efficient project, but does so in 3 floors as opposed to 2. Topography really, again, informing the massing and the stacking of the project, but also the idea of where is the appropriate entry, how do folks process into the building, and what becomes the identity of the building. So there's about a 16-foot drop from Main Street down to Water Street, wanting the building to be up on Main Street and sort of connected to the town, but recognizing that the parking areas would be down on the lower levels, really informed the location of the entry of the building here is sort of that northwest corner of the building pad as a recognition of sort of a compromise here, connected closely to the ADA public parking, setting up a secure staff entrance in relationship with a secure parking area, establishing lower level detainee sally port entrances off of a secure sally port drive, and then thinking about all of the public parking processing on foot into the building, but also thinking about how to create a way or a path for folks to continue to walk from the urban core down into and accessing the building. And so the location of this new entry facing west really, again, reinforces that idea that this is this new gateway and this project creates a new identity and a new face for the future of Glasgow. So as we look at the building plans here, I'm sort of turn ourselves a little bit and orient the entrance of the building page south again. So this is facing west. This is the first level of the building, the lowest level of the building, immediately accessible by ADA accessible parking here and from a pedestrian path from the downtown again down to the front door. And just from an orientation standpoint, the plans are rendered so that you can clearly see where the public realm is and where the secure staff realm is. So anything that's sort of shaded in this lighter yellow or tan color is accessible to the public and it's public circulation. And then the rear corridor here in this light blue is the secure staff corridor. And so there will always be a point where the public cannot go back any farther and access the secure spaces. And then the dark red is the inmate elevator, and the red areas are really generally the secure areas about building security or holding as we move through the plan. So you'll come through the entrance to the building, the identity of the building here, circulate through screening. Immediately in front of you would be the public queuing area to access the clerk space. And then you see the bulk of the clerk working area here immediately adjacent to that customer service interface. The rest of this lighter blue area on the ground floor on the page right here is active records and inactive records, evidence and archive record storage. So that all of the clerks really functional spaces here on the ground level. Also on the first floor of the building, easily accessible from this public path and public realm is the drug court suite. All of the spaces from public entry and waiting and conference and testing and all of the office space really efficiently located on this lower corner of the building. On the back side of the building here, again, secure staff entry off of the secure staff surface parking lot with a secure staff stairwell and elevator up into the administrative areas of the sort of back of house. We have some major mechanical spaces here that are easily accessed from this covered entrance drive. This serves as both sort of a vehicular path into the sally port, but also a way to deliver from a maintenance and mechanical aspect of the project. And then you see the central sally port and holding areas, secure office space back here, and the security locker rooms on the back of the first floor. So as we move vertically into the building, this is the second floor. And sort of a key driver of the organization of the building is really being intentional about the interior public realm of the building occupying that west and south facade. This is again facing sort of the entrance into the town and the sort of the public green across the new access drive. And this is immediately looking out onto Main Street. So it's really giving over the interior of the building for public users of the building with that great connection to the more public aspects of the immediate context. On the second floor here, we have the largest of the district courts and the chambers immediately behind. And we also have the family court courtroom and the family court judge's suite immediately behind. Again, the idea of public access, getting back to a secure point to be able to ring back and be able to be let into the judge's suite. But we have the secure corridor along the back of the building, the secure elevator and stair here in the corner, bringing those staff members up into the building securely. And we see the idea of central holding delivered from the central area on the lower level here in this elevator. We have holding cells and secure interview rooms to access both of the courts. And then this purple area is the jury deliberation suite on the corner that would serve this larger and more ceremonial district court. So moving vertically to the third floor of the building, and I'll just toggle back really quickly. This sort of makes the point graphically of right-sizing the courts, thinking about gallery need, but also building efficiency. So this is the second court, and you can see that the courtrooms themselves just stack up very cleanly. It makes for a really ordered structural organization of the building and efficiency in terms of planning and construction. But on the top floor is the circuit courtroom here, and the circuit courtroom chambers in the back, and then the smaller of the district courtrooms, still jury capable, and where we mentioned before the idea of sharing. There's a dedicated jury deliberation space for the large circuit courtroom. The grand jury space is here, accessible off of the public realm, but able to serve as a jury deliberation space in the event that there were 3 jury trials happening at the same time. Fairly unlikely, or certainly infrequently. So as we think about and transition to the sort of the character of the building, one of the things that we looked to is the Department of Interior standards for the design of historic buildings in historic contexts, or additions to historic buildings and additions to historic contexts, as a way for really the Secretary of the Interior really being the authority in terms of providing this kind of guidance. And so as we were thinking about, again, what's the language and the expression of this project, this document says that each property should be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use, and goes on to say that design that creates a false sense of historic development, such as conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, is not to be undertaken. And we took that to heart as we started to think about the appropriate language for the project. It goes on to say that new work shall be differentiated from the old, yet be compatible in terms of massing, scale, and size. And so we recognize that this building's not to be a high rise, not to have an overly excessive building footprint. It should fit in terms of scale, but it should not seek compatibility through sort of the copying of the historic language. And so as we looked at what is really the informing from a contextual standpoint, how we should be thinking about this project. And if we acknowledge that the proposed concept is supposed to appropriately mark its place in time, how can it really be compatible? How should it be compatible? And we look to the historic courthouse for some guidance there. Certainly, this is a very ordered building. There are strong datums, horizontal datums. These civic buildings always have a really clear base and a middle and a cap. Typically, there is a strong entry identity. It's clear where the entrance to the building is. It's usually marked in a different material. It's very vertical. And there's also a really clear procession into the building. Typically, they're raised up on a plinth, but there's this really intentional path that leads you to a door. So as we also were thinking about sort of the sensitivity to the context of downtown Glasgow, wanting to use familiar materials, again, recognize those strong vertical rhythms, have a project that is delicate relative to the scale of the city, and ultimately be in deference to the historic courthouse. And so I'll move into some of the elevation character of the building. And so again, clear order to the project, a strong base and a middle and a cap, thinking about the use of familiar materials, and in terms of identity, building identity, a really strong verticality to the entrance. And these are two-dimensional building elevations, and sometimes they sort of lack depth. This is the elevation looking toward Main Street. I'm going to toggle through these relatively quickly because I think the building renderings do a greater job of sharing the real spirit of the project. This is the north elevation looking toward the large public parking lot on the back, and the east elevation facing back toward downtown. Again, relatively flat. But as you see the building in the third dimension, the idea of the clear base, shaft, and cap, the idea that the building starts to carve itself into the site a bit and creates this procession available from downtown down into the site and into this lower entry lobby and screening area. This is the view from the large public parking lot. You can see the immediate ADA accessible spaces here adjacent to the front door and a path from the parking lot beyond. And you're starting to see the elevation change to West Main Street above, the carving out of the site, and creating a building that is richly layered and has put together in appropriate materials that speaks to sort of a new and sort of relevant language for a judicial building and civic architecture in downtown. A view of the rear of the building, you see the secure staff parking area and staff entrance into the building separated from that covered vehicular entrance for the south floor. And just some quick aerial views, again, just sort of orientation and context, seeing the building as a gateway into the entrance to the downtown and the proximity of parking relative to the building. So I think with that, Dan, do you want me to cover the total cost slide?
Yes, if you could, please.
Yeah, certainly. So this was the program document put together in August of 2020. At the time, there was a budgeted total construction cost of just over $24.4 million, design-related costs of just under $2.2 million. There was looks like close to a 10% contingency, construction contingency of just about 2.3. There was money allocated for purchase and of the site, sites, bond financing, temporary facility costs. So there was a total project cost of $31,615,000. We've worked really closely with our co-collaborators here at Alliance, and they have put together construction costs. I think Tom Dunn is going to walk through in more detail, but to sort of recap that. The construction costs estimate right now, based on the schematic design documents, coupled with builder's risk insurance and temporary utilities, photo services, bonds, and their CM fees, we're at a total construction cost of $41,561,207.50. And so you can see that how that compares to the original budget allocation of 24.4. We also have currently a design-related cost, total design-related cost budgeted at $2.2 million, just under $2.25 million. That's a budget for the AE fees as well as commissioning, environmental and geotechnical investigation of the project. And then we have some other costs associated with the project. Again, tracking the purchase costs, some of the early disbursements to the project, continuing to carry a construction contingency and administrative fees and design contingencies. So those other total costs are just under $4.4 million. So we have a total project cost of $48,190,882.89 compared to the 31.6 previously. So I apologize if I went into any detail that was unnecessary or took too long, or if I skipped over anything. I'm happy to go back and answer any questions you might have of the program or the architectural design. If not, I think I'll continue to drive the document here and let Alliance talk about construction costs.
Yes, sir. Jody, thank you. Tommy Gum, Alliance Corporation. We're very excited about being involved in this exciting addition to our community. We are local here in Glasgow, and we know this will be a great addition. This is our what we call our bid package budget. This is the way the project will eventually be bid out in these particular bid packages. We were very fortunate that we were provided a great deal of information from the design team. As you noticed from Jody's presentation, the parking lot and adjacent areas were laid out to the point that we could estimate, put a good estimate together on the quantities We did involve some local contractors in regard to the site excavation portion of the project. We were given a very exact scope of work in regard to the mechanical and electrical systems. And we were given a great deal of information in regard to the building components. All of those helped us to develop what we believe is a realistic budget in today's dollars for this project. We do not know what the future will bring. In some ways, I am optimistic about the fact that maybe we will have a better bidding climate when we go out for bids in middle of next year, because there is a lot of work out right now. And so we just look forward to the possibility of, like I say, having a good bid climate. Glasgow is located in a good geographical area for bidders. We've always had very good luck in being able to solicit bidders in this area adjacent to Bowling Green, halfway between Nashville and Louisville. So I would open it up to any questions that you might have in regard to our budget.
I want to just one thing about our membership. I see that Representative Elliott has now joined us from his court appearance, so you can add him to the list. So Representative Elliott, are you there?
Thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. I am here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions about the architectural design or the cost with respect to Barren County?
I know, just to bring this up, I know that there are currently not 2 district judges, but I think that based on caseload analysis that have been done in the past, it's anticipated that there may be a need in the future. And obviously we're designing buildings for the future. And so I assume that that's why the second courtroom has been added, and that also my judicial colleagues in Barren are okay with the fact that it's a little non-traditional design to not have everybody on the same floor, but you're able to achieve those efficiencies and sharing some space with the grand jury room to be able to have that available. So I just did want to point that out, that having worked on the judicial workload, I think that even though we don't currently have a second district judge, that we're planning for the future with this project. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I asked that very same question of Danny, that we only had 1 district judge in that district, which is 2 counties. And what he said was, as Judge Anderson just stated about the workloads and the growth that's anticipated in Barren County, that it may be needed in the not too near future. So not too distant future. So so I think that's the reason. Is that right, Danny?
That's correct, Judge. And or Chief Justice Minton, yes, or Van Meter, I'm sorry. We had
to get rid of Minton, so yeah.
The other anticipating factor is that, you know, these courtrooms can be used for multiple use, not just district court. You know, that can be used for family court as well as circuit court if the need is there in any of those levels. So.
Also, I would just like to say I'm very familiar with Glasgow, have a lot of family down that way. I think it's an absolutely beautiful design with a great usage of the space. To me, when you look at the front facade, it's almost like a river flowing down, and the river influence in Barren County. It speaks a lot to me about Glasgow, and I think it's a beautiful design, a great use of the space. And Danny, I do apologize for not being here at the beginning. I had drug court, and so I apologize to my Barren County friends that I made anxious about whether y'all had a quorum. I know y'all are really anxious to move forward.
Okay, Danny, if we don't have any further questions, do we have somebody from Barren and Company?
We do, and I'd like for them to kind of go over what our financing timeline and where we're at with that. So, Mark, I'm not sure who we have with Baird here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Maria Long. I'm with the Baird team. My colleague Michael Oldigiz is on here as well. Chief and committee members, thank you for having us here today to kind of talk through the financing plan with you all. So right now, Jody, if you don't mind to scroll to the next page for me. Thank you. So we are estimating a total project fund of just shy of $49.5 million based on current construction estimates and refunding the ban that was issued last year to kind of get things rolling. We have a current use allowance of
So can I interrupt real quick? There's a little bit of an echo that Ms. Long that's really making you a little bit difficult to understand. So I don't know if that's just me or if it's anyone else.
Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay. Technology. So we have a use allowance of $3,593,000. So here you can see we've got our cost of issuance and underwriter's discount estimated for a total bonding amount of $50,680,000. So Jody, if you can scroll down a few more pages to page 38 of the packet.
Apologize, I'm not seeing page numbers, so you just tell me when to stop.
Okay. One more. Okay. So over 20-year financing, we have a shortage of about $35,000 a year based on current cost and rate estimates. Obviously, we don't want you all to have to stretch out debt any further than you absolutely have to and incur extra interest expense. So based on where everything is at right now, we are estimating that a 21-year financing will allow you all to afford the project without incurring extra expenses. So on the following page, let's see, go a few more actually. So here you can see still funding the same amounts. And then Jody, if you could scroll a few more for me, I'll tell you when to stop. Perfect, right here. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So here you can see over 21 years, it gives us an excess revenue of about $60,000 a year. The estimated rate on this is a 3.98. And these were as of last week. We saw rates tick up in our municipal market last week. So I updated everything yesterday and it still fits within the 21-year financing, but our rate now would be a 4.13%. With excess revenue of $15,000 to $20,000 per year. So just kind of an update on our market for you all. It's moving very quickly and kind of showing some volatility. There's a lot of uncertainty. And the CPI will come out on Thursday. And so that's kind of the next marker for our market to see what things will be doing. And so obviously this is still quite a ways out, but just wanted to kind of give you all an update on where things are right now. And obviously, based on current estimates, that's where we are. And when it gets closer and we have actual bids and we're seeing where the market is, you know, a year down the road, we'll obviously look at this again and see if we can shorten it back up to 20, if rates lower down and construction bids can lower than expected, or lengthen it out to maybe say 22, 23 years if necessary, but no more than absolutely needed.
Are there any questions? Okay, Danny.
So Chief, as has been presented, this project again has been reviewed by the Department of Court Facilities at AOC. This does meet our programmatic needs and fit within the use allowance at 21 years. So we are at this point in agreement with our design team, construction manager, and financial advisor to move forward and requesting that the Court Facility Standards Committee at this time take action and decide whether to move forward to Phase B design development.
Okay, is there a motion to that effect?
This is Judge Anderson. I'll make the motion.
Okay, is there a second?
And this is Judge Jones. I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that will approve that.
Hey,
So-
Chief John Alexander, I just, excuse me, want the record to reflect that I recused from any participation in the discussion or voting.
Okay, thank you so much. It will so reflect. So at this point, I think that the Barren County people can go off, and we'll stay on for update from Danny with respect to the prior projects.
Thank you all so much. We really appreciate everything and all the efforts been put into this.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Chief Justice Van Meter, at this time, I'm going to have Mark Bannister give our update on the projects that are currently underway and what status of those projects are. And I will give a brief update at the end on our Jefferson County carpet project.
Okay. So in addition to the two that we approved today, we have 9 other judicial center projects, and we also are doing a major HVAC replacement at the Hardin County Judicial Center. Bath County, we're actually finalizing the construction manager contract in order to begin construction on that project. Codell is the construction manager on that. And right now we're scheduled to be complete with that project, hopefully in May of 2025. Our Butler County project, we have recently finished the land acquisition for that project and are starting our Phase A design for that project. The Crittenden County project, right now we're finalizing the bid documents prior to bidding. That project will actually be bid as a general contractor project. Graves County, we've selected an architect and a financial advisor for that project. And right now we're advertising for a construction manager for that project. Jessamine County, we're in Phase B design. And right now that is estimated to go out to bid hopefully in spring of 2023. Leslie County, we have selected the architect and financial advisor for that project. And right now we're starting site selection. In the Madison County, we're actually doing a renovation and a small addition to that building. That right now we're in the early stages of construction for that project. We're approximately 12% complete, and it's currently scheduled to be completed in August of 2024. Oldham County, we're actually in early construction that one as well. It's around 22% complete, and it's currently scheduled to be completed in September of 2025. In Scott County, we're finishing up Phase B design, and we're hopefully scheduled to be bidding later in fall or late fall of this year. And in Hardin County, where we're doing the HVAC replacement, the consultant is in currently in phase C design, and we hope to be complete with that project in summer of 2025. Does anybody have any questions on those projects? Danny, I'll defer to you for the last project. Got you. You're on mute, Danny.
Okay, sorry about that. As Mark mentioned, Hardin County, is a major HVAC renovation project. We have taken, basically periodic steps with that project. We have already changed our boilers. We this week have installed a new cooling tower that is being hooked up. We're currently operating on a rental cooling tower. The rest of that HVAC project is currently under design, which is changing out all of the heat pumps throughout the building, 70 plus. And, there was some ceiling work that will be required with that as the heat pumps are above ceiling. That project was, authorized in 2022. The city turned that building over to AOC. The deed is currently with us. That is the only project that or courthouse that is deeded to the Court of Justice at this time. But the hope is that once we get this the HVAC project done, that we can look at other arrangements down the line. I believe the General Assembly made note of that in the previous session. So also Jefferson County project that carpet replacement and paint that was authorized in 2022. This is a large project, basically dressing the carpet in all floors of the Jefferson County Judicial Center. We are currently working with Louisville Metro. I've got a meeting with them on Friday to discuss, them moving forward as they are the owner of the building. They would need to cover those costs until we reimburse. But we have gotten General Assembly allocation of funds for that project. So we're ready to move forward once Louisville Metro does. So any questions related to that or questions regarding any other issues that we may have today?
I just had one question, Danny. Is that the building that the circuit and family court judges are in? That is not the Hall of Justice. Is that correct?
Correct.
That district is in. Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussions for Mark or Danny? Questions? Any further discussion? Danny, do we have a like a list of like any possible projects that we might be advancing in the next budget session?
As far as budget requests?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we that far yet?
Currently in our capital plan and what we are anticipating asking for is the Owsley County Judicial Center. So basically replacement of the current courthouse, our space that we're occupying in the current courthouse. And then the Court of Appeals central office here in Franklin County, construction of a facility for that use. And those would be the two currently that we would be asking for.
Plus Clark County, right? So is there a provision in our APs about naming projects for persons?
There is, Chief. Basically, all new judicial centers per our APs, and I can get that exact language, would not be able to be named after individuals. Courtrooms or law library spaces, that would be allowed. within the APs.
So you said for new courthouses, what about existing courthouses?
Existing judicial centers or courthouses or?
One or the other. I had a call from a state rep yesterday or the day before, and I'll follow up with you with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chief, there's nothing in the APs that really pertains to existing courthouses, but there are some statutes about naming conventions for state buildings. And I don't know if they would necessarily apply to judicial branch, but we can discuss that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Made by.
So moved.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.